Should have strong border security. It doesn't make sense for us to allow hundreds of thousands of people coming through our borders without us knowing who they are, oftentimes in very hazardous situations and unmonitored situations that could do us long-term damage. I think we should have a serious employer verification system where employers, when they hire somebody, find out what their work status is. Are they able to work here legally? Right now, what employers will say is, well, we check their Social Security card. That's the best we can do. So we've got to set up a tamper-proof system and then hold employers accountable. You go to the back of the line so that those who came here legally, that backlog is cleared before you have opportunities for citizenship. That is a reasonable approach, and one that will ultimately address the biggest problem for American workers, and that is the depressive effect of undocumented workers who aren't right now subject to oftentimes minimum wage laws or worker safety laws or all the other things that make them cheaper.
That seems somewhat sensible, but good evening. It's Monday, January 27th, 2025. Welcome to episode 96 of Porterhouse and Teal Live. And what you just saw there was Barack Obama, a much younger Barack Obama, talking about immigration, and the policies that he was supporting are policies that are largely supported by the current administration. And it's something that I think the majority of the American people are in line with. And it's kind of interesting to see how far the party that he's associated with, the Democrat Party, had strayed from that over the past number of years. But he was actually referred to as the Deporter-in-Chief. And so the question I would have for you, the listening audience, of our recent past presidents, who deported the most illegal aliens? And your choices are Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, or Joe Biden. And I'll clarify that, who is the actual Deporter-in-Chief, as we get a little further on in the broadcast. But hey, good evening to all of you. And how are you doing this evening, Rebecca?
I am doing great. I want to say good evening to Bill. So I would like to kind of go into how I am doing this evening by kind of telling a humorous little story.
Okay.
Which you were very busy working. And so our grandson and I delivered dinner to you.
Mm-hmm.
And he wants to carry the plate, right?
Yeah.
He wants to carry the plate, and I don't want him to do that. So I have to convince him that there's something more important for him to do, and that's usually to bring you the silverware.
Mm-hmm.
You can't eat without the silverware, so it's really important. So in this case, he came blazing into the room, fork hanging out of his mouth.
I remember, yes.
Drops it out of his mouth onto the table and looks at you and says, "There you go, Papa. There you go."
Yeah, so that was very sweet of him. However, I like to lubricate my own fork, so I think I had to do a redo on that one. But yeah, bless his heart, huh?
Yes, the expression on your face was priceless.
Yeah. Cool. Well, hey, I wanted to, I guess, somewhat apologize a little bit for last week's episode to anybody who may have listened to that or tried to listen to it on the rebroadcast, because I've said this before, because it's happened before, but I had a copyright violation last week. And when that happens, there's no monetization that I get from the video, but the person whose content that I used that supposedly I violated, they get full rights to utilize the video for monetization. And there was a lot of ads put into that, mid-roll ads. And I don't typically do that. I've told you guys before that I'm not really that interested in, trying to get a bunch of monetization mid-roll ads in a broadcast like this, because I know that a lot of you wind up listening to this not during the live, but rather listen to it doing something else, whether that be working in the garden, washing dishes, driving your car, or out exercising or what have you. And I know personally for myself, I listen to a lot of content like that. I catch up on what other creators have said throughout the week and spend a little bit of time with some of my favorite content creators. And it's super annoying when there are those mid-roll ads every 10 minutes. And so just understand that that's nothing I could actually change. I tried to turn monetization off. And once I got that strike, I couldn't even manipulate it to turn the mid-roll ads off. So what I'm hoping to convey to you is that if that happens again, and you do want to listen to what we had to say for the week, you don't want to be annoyed by those, you can go and listen to the audio only version on Spotify, because I upload our content there every week. And so if that's something that you're interested in, go give that a listen. And I just wanted to kind of clarify that, because that's super annoying to me. I don't know about you, Rebecca, but I don't like having to stop what I'm doing to skip the ads. And essentially that's what took place for last week's video.
So I'd like to say hello to Hogs14 and Without Training Wheels.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for dropping in.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
I as well listen to different live streams when I'm running. Mm-hmm. So I'm not physically watching them live, but I do that to take in information. But as well, it's somebody else talking to me, and it kind of takes my mind off of the exercise so that I can keep going.
Yeah, there's just so much content out there. I understand that not everybody's going to drop what they're doing to come here on a on a Monday evening and spend time with us, but maybe they want to catch it on the rebroadcast. And like I said, I understand that. I do the same. There's a lot of people out there that I listen to, and I try to fit it into my schedule throughout the week. And it's just super annoying, all those ads, but
it's really hard to get my phone out of my waistband, try to skip through the ads and try to get it back in and keep up the pace.
Yeah. I just want to start by saying I hope everybody had a great week. We did. I know it was a fantastic week for us. And, I was reflecting a little bit on the past week that we had here. I was driving up to, go work out on a nice sunny morning, windy, but yet sunny, and blue skies, and just kind of sitting there thinking in my truck. And, I'm at the age, and I have been for some time, where I get these notifications from, my work. I'm a part of an email chain of retirees from my job. And I get these emails where, you different things come across the wire, but a lot of times it's people that have passed away. And it's it really hits you in the gut, man, when you get a notification from somebody who you worked with for a number of years, and they're really not that much older than you. And it really starts to make you think, holy smokes, man, this is like mortality thing is real, mm-hmm. And I had one last week where a guy that he was one of my captains. I had at the camp that I was the chief at, I had 12 captains. And then I had some other staff as well that worked underneath me. And he was one of the captains that worked underneath me. And he eventually wound up going out to a station and working as a captain, but he was the captain that was my son's first captain. So when my son got hired as a firefighter, he was my son's. And then when my son found out about this, he was like, he had said to me, he says, wow, it's kind of a trip hearing people that, I'm starting to get to that age, because he's still at 33 now or whatever, right?
He's 33.
Yeah. So he's getting of that age where you start hearing people passing away. And I don't know. It's just one of those things, but there's no guarantees out there, and you got to go out every day and find something to, grasp a hold of and, work toward your goals. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For me, they do a Facebook page, which I'm not on Facebook, but I have a close friend who lets me know when classmates pass away. Mm-hmm. And they may be ones that I know the name, but don't know them. But there are ones that actually were pretty good friends when we were in high school. Right. And that kind of hits you hard, because they're the same age you are.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been doing a lot around here. Not so much on the homesteading front though. And I think Rebecca would probably concur with that, right?
Right. I have been trying to do everything that I can to kind of help Eric out. This is a big week for him, training and getting ready for his new event coming up. And so how are you feeling about that? You ready?
Well, yeah, I'm as ready as I guess I'm going to be. I put in a lot of training getting to this point, and, now's just the gathering all the things that I think that I'm going to need. And, I'm excited about it, but I'm also nervous because it's going to be a true test, to get to the finish line on a race like this. It's 100-mile distance, and there's 27,000 feet of gain and descent. And then I just got word now that I'm checking the weather, getting closer to the event, that it's supposed to be raining. So that ought to make it really another layer of complexity that, it's going to be interesting. I'm excited and looking forward to it. I've got gear, and I'm planning on bringing gear and backup gear and all of that. And that's one of the things that I really like about it. Not only is it challenging physically and mentally, but it's like, you got to prepare, man. If you don't prepare, and it's perfect for somebody who's a prepper, because that's part of what I get excited about is the week of is getting all my shit lined out, getting all my gear together. And, if this happens, I need that. And so you only learn this through making mistakes. And believe me, I've made plenty of mistakes in different races, and you have to try to overcome those mistakes and get to the finish line and navigate around them. But it's the one thing that when you make that certain mistake, you realize I ain't doing that again. And so I've been, trying to dot all my I's and cross all my T's this week. But I think I'm ready.
Yeah. Hogs 14 had said that, you hear a lot of people that you work with who pass away right after they retire, basically. Mm. And that's kind of sad,
Yeah, it is, man. And, I've told this to a lot of people, that, career is a big thing for a lot of people. Some people, it's kind of their whole existence in their life, because you work to get to a certain point of importance, and then you reach that status. And then usually when you get to that position of importance, it in many ways gets easier. And so it's easy to take the bigger paycheck home with, maybe more responsibility, maybe a little bit more stress, but you're actually doing less because you're delegating, in that position. And so a lot of people stick around longer. I mean, I know people that have worked. It's like, dude, why are you still working? He's like, oh, I just love it, And it's like, you maxed out on your pension. Why are you still here?
And I think it gives them a purpose, though.
It does. But see, here's the thing, man. There's more to life than working for somebody else, or, just working your entire life. Now, if you're an entrepreneur and that's your true passion and you've built this business, I can fully understand that. But we're talking people that are working for the man, working for somebody else. Mm-hmm. And again, if that's your thing, more power to you. But there's a lot of life out there to live. And I think that, I just don't understand it personally, how somebody would want to take and work beyond what is actually, beneficial to them as far as monetarily. Now, obviously, they're getting more from it than just that because of all of the other parts that they get from it. Mentally, I suppose, a purpose and everything. But there's so much out there I just don't understand.
Right. I can only speak from the perspective of my mom, who, all her children grew up, moved away. Her husband passed away. Mm-hmm. And so she worked at the college in the computer lab and absolutely loved it. But she was helping people. She got to interact with people. And, it just helped her along. And certainly not long after she lost her license, it didn't really take too long after that for her to.
No, I fully understand that. Somebody who, feels the need to have connection, they want to get out there with other people and greet people. That's why people do the Walmart greeter thing. These old folks that are out there that, hey, I've got this job, doesn't pay well, but I get to see people. I get to get out of my house. I get that. I fully understand it. But when you have your health and you're young enough, people of our age, there's a lot to do out there that doesn't just require greeting somebody at Walmart, So I don't know. I see a lot of people work beyond what I would want to do, and then, don't really take care of themselves physically. And then you find out a short time later that they haven't cashed in much on their retirement because they die a year or two later. I see that happen quite a bit. It's kind of unfortunate.
Yeah.
DHT says, I say that all the time. You only live once and life is too short. Yeah. And I agree with that. And I think I've pretty much covered that. I don't want to take anything away from anybody who wants to work their entire life till they die. That's their choice. That's their life to live. But it just interests me when people stick around because they don't have anything else to do, man. There's so much out there,
I don't know if it's what I said to an employee in one of our Rayleigh stores, but he was working roughly the same age I was, had been there for 30 something years. And I said, well, why are you still here? You're not making any more money than, and I think it was only a month after I said that he actually retired.
Yeah.
And he looks, I've seen him and he just looks so much happier. And he's a person who likes to hike. And so he's out doing activities and
might have found himself a new girlfriend or something. Maybe that's
he might have. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. Without Trading Wheels says need tasks on schedule. If can't handle sitting around, or I can't handle sitting around. Yeah, I think people just need purpose. That's the bottom line to all of it. And I understand why some people might and have a hard time letting go of that career because that gives them purpose, But nonetheless, we're moving on, right?
We're moving on.
We are retired. We've been retired for 9 years now, so it's all good. And I ran into an old boy in the gym the other day. I hadn't seen him for a long time, but I asked him because he's the guy I worked with, and I said, "Man, you're looking pretty good, dude. You got some guns on you. You've been doing the thing." And he's like, "Yeah, I was sitting around getting out of shape." He said, "I decided to get back in the gym." And I said, "Well, how long you been retired now, Billy?" He's going on 18 years.
Oh,
so he's cashing in, man. And that's good to see because, that's what the pensions, they bank on people dying right afterwards. That's their money right there. That's where they make their money is when you pay into the system and then you cash out and die before, you get a chance to enjoy it. But let me ask you, Rebecca, what is the biggest mistake that you think people our age make?
I think that people our age, when they're younger, do not financially set themselves up for when they are, and they realize it later on when they hit our age.
So you're saying that they decide to play now and then figure it out later. In other words, they're like, "Hey, I want to live my life now. I'm going to go out and do the things and have fun because I just don't know what's going to happen in the future." And then pretty soon it's the future. And they look around and go, I'm still like kind of grinding here. I'm not comfortable. Is that what you're saying?
It's that. And it's just that they're just not paying attention. They just think, oh, it'll happen, and
so not planning.
And it doesn't. You're just burying yourself.
Yeah. So not planning for your future, I guess is what I'm getting from you.
Right.
Yeah. I think what the biggest mistake is that a lot of people make our age is that when you get to be a certain age, you're like an old dog that can't, that doesn't want to learn new tricks. And, you come up with this idea that I am who I am. And therefore I will stay like this basically for the rest of my life. And I think one of the best things that you can do, no matter what your age is just to, try to break out of that paradigm. I think because there's so many options, just like we were talking about, there's so many different things that you can do out there. There's so many different things you can expose yourself to, and don't just get locked into that idea that, therefore I am this today. So therefore I need to be that, like moving into the future. Right.
Yeah.
Just stagnating.
I think Dean Millis aspires to be a Walmart greeter.
Man, that's a lofty goal, man. I'm telling you, look at that. Dean Mullis, good evening tonight, man. How are you? Yeah, just as I stand in the Walmart parking lot and say, thanks for coming. Yeah, that's awesome, man. They need to be paying you for that, though. See, it's a multi-billion-dollar corporation, and you're giving them something for free. But bless your heart, that's awesome.
Although I have to say, I was in a store and there was something that fell off the hanger,
Yeah.
and I bent down to pick it up, and I didn't knock it down. It was down there. So I was looking for the empty hanger to hang it back up. And the employee comes over and she says, "What are you doing? You don't work here." And she took the pants from me.
Right.
And that's the first time that's ever happened to me. Probably the only time that will ever happen to me.
Yeah. Without Training Wheels is chiming in, says, wife yells at me because I'm always out doing projects instead of staying at my property and soaking it in. Yeah. Yeah, man. I got some dreams and some goals and some things that I'd like to do that I haven't done. And I think that's what keeps me inspired to get up every day and work toward those goals. And, I got some, big plans this year as far as athletically, which is going to take me a few different places to, run races and experience what's there when I'm there. And so I'm looking forward to that. And that's part of it. I got the homestead thing kind of working here, but that's not going to be my every move. I've got other things that I do other than just homestead with chickens and compost and grow some food, I love all that stuff. But
now, mind you,
Mhm.
you've got those goals.
Well, what are your goals? Let's go do them.
But what the goals you have for me is to crew you while you're
Well, that's
running your
fine. That's
goals.
fine. Come up with some goals of your own, and I will crew you doing whatever it is that you want to do. And it doesn't have to be running a race. It can be anything.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that here now publicly in front of the internet. And so it's up to you now to put up, or as they say, right? So let's do it.
Okay.
Big things, big dreams. Oh yeah, got to that one already. Yeah. I think, I was talking about optimism, and you're optimistic, right?
Yeah.
I'm optimistic.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's a lot of people right now that are optimistic. I think that there's a lot of optimistic, generally speaking, in the country because of what we've seen in the country in this last election and a change of leadership in the White House. And I will say this straight up, is that I don't structure my success or failure in life based on what government does or doesn't do. But I will say that it sure makes it easier for me. And I think that it makes it a lot easier for everyone else when there is a clear direction on where we're headed. And I think it's very refreshing to have someone who delivers on promises because, we haven't seen that for, the last number of years with the Biden administration. And things have changed pretty dramatically. I think most people would.
We haven't hardly even seen Biden.
Well, I hope we don't see him anymore. He's now no longer the president. So I hope we don't see him.
But I mean, when he was, you hardly even saw him then.
Oh, I know. That's what I'm saying. He wasn't that visible. He wasn't giving clear direction. And so now you have a very active president. And it's a big contrast in leadership. And so I think it makes it, just so much more clear for everybody to know that we have somebody who's delivering on their promises. It's a lot easier for me or you or anybody to make plans for the future, right?
Yeah.
When things are uncertain, do you want to go out and make plans? If you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, you're not going to want to come and invest in maybe starting a new business or maybe starting a new family.
Mm-hmm.
If why would I want to
start a new family?
Well, no. Kind of, but no. But no, I'm just saying that the average person, that's out there, the young persons aren't. Why would I want to bring a person into the world when we have this world that's completely uncertain?
Yeah.
And there's all this tumult and turmoil, and economically things are failing. And so I think that there's just a much greater level right now of of optimism, generally speaking. And I guess I'm speaking for the rest of many people in the country.
Mhm.
And I think that that's what the rest of the world expects from the world's number one superpower,
Yeah.
right? We've got all the nuclear weapons and all the economic might and all of this prosperity here and ability, but yet it wasn't being utilized in an effective manner. And we were allowing other nations to take advantage of
Well, I think
America.
the focus definitely was not in the right direction.
No, of course not.
By the way, Bill Warner likes your last biochar video.
Oh, right on. I appreciate that. That one was kind of fun to make. We had a photographer out here, and he was taking a few pictures. So if you see a guy almost looks like he's ready to jump into the pit, into my trench, he was taking some pictures for a magazine piece that's going to be coming out sometime later this year, I think, as I've been told. But
Yeah.
it's
I think he said fall or winter.
right. So, if that comes out and whatnot, I'll shoot a link to it or what have you, so you can go check it out if it's online. Or I think it's a print publication as well. So he's going to give us a couple copies and stuff so we could have for whatever. But yeah, it was kind of fun.
Didn't he say, or you say that there's some connection with John Deere?
Yeah, it's a publication called The Furrow, and it's by John Deere's, the one that does it, and it's one of the oldest agricultural public farm publications in the country, going back to the I think 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I'd never even heard of it, but it's cool. So anyhow, Trump. So he's going crazy, isn't he?
He is going crazy. He is not wasting any time at all.
Mm-mm. No, it's too hard to keep up with that, man. I look forward to all the different things that are being thrown out there every day. And I think that the media is in a tailspin trying to keep up with everything that he's doing. And that might be part of his strategy, is to just do as much as he can, as quick as he can. And what that really does is it causes them to go to the next thing. Instead of focusing on this, they're now already moved over to here because this is the latest and greatest shiny thing. So it's pretty incredible to see.
So this goes out to Bill Warner.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm gray, but I'm not that gray.
What are you talking about?
He thought the photographer was me.
Oh, that's brutal. Yeah, no, that was a guy. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, no, so I just think it is absolutely amazing to have a president who's willing to engage and keep the public informed. And, he has been so accessible, not only to his constituents, but politicians both here and abroad. They're getting access to him, which is huge. And it's also, again, a huge departure from what we've seen.
Yeah, and he's all over the place. He's not picking and he's there for everyone.
Right. Yeah. No, he was in Las Vegas just, I think it was yesterday, the day before. I don't know. Everything's moving so fast, but he was fulfilling one of his campaign promises where he had proclaimed that he was going to do away with tax on tips. And of course, this is something that's going to be very, very popular with the service industry. These people, they rely heavily on tips to put food on their table. So whether it's folks that are working in Vegas in the service industry or restaurant industries that rely on providing people service and they get tips, he's going to do away with that somehow. So, but anyhow, he was at this thing and he's getting up, and it's the thing that was amazing to me is that he's so comfortable in his own skin right now. He's up there just riffing like he's telling jokes and everything. And this is the first time, I have to say, that I've ever seen Trump crack himself up.
Okay, so before you go there,
yeah,
answer this question.
Mm-hmm.
What's your thoughts on buying pre-inoculated char? And that is from DHT. DNT?
Yeah. Okay.
DHT. Sorry about that.
Okay, I'll give you my thoughts on that. I mean, I suppose it depends on what you're looking for it to do, how much soil you're actually looking to treat. It's probably going to be fairly expensive, but it might be worth your while. I don't know. I've seen different stuff out there for different costs. It just depends on what your budget is and what you're looking to do. How much ground are you actually looking to treat? I don't know. It really depends. Quite honestly, I don't know if I have a definitive answer on how I really feel about it. I mean, if you're just doing a couple of garden beds, it might be worth your while. If you don't have the ability to make your own char and you want to get some char into your soil, it might be worth your while. So I'm not going to discourage people from doing that, because everybody has a different budget and a different what they want to actually do with the char. I just personally think it's so easy to make. And it is something that if you have property, I wouldn't necessarily advocate it, because you probably have some form of biomass on your property that you're going to be collecting. And what I would say is, if you're putting up a burn pile annually, I would suggest maybe consider making your own biochar and inoculating your own biochar. But again, it's what's your time worth? Maybe that's too much, and you'd rather just pay somebody to have inoculated biochar. But I have no opposition to it other than just the cost factor and everything from my standpoint. But
so Bill says that The Furrow is a really good magazine. And William also says that Trump was also talking about no taxes on Social Security.
Yeah, that's I haven't heard him saying as much about that. And I don't know to what extent the president has the ability to do a lot of the things that Trump has proclaimed that he's going to do. Obviously some things are going to be challenged legally because he doesn't have the authority to just say, well, I'm doing this. Perfect example is the birthright citizenship issue. That's already being challenged in court, and that's something he's probably going to lose. It just depends on how the Supreme Court is going to view that. But it's clearly stating that if you're born in the United States, you're all persons born in the United States are going to be a U.S. citizen. And so how you want to say that's going to play out, I think we'll find out fairly soon. But he's just basically fulfilling campaign promises at this point by doing all these executive actions and doing all these things that he said that he was going to do. So good on him for doing that. If he has the ability to do that with Social Security tax, that would be pretty sweet.
Yeah. DHT also wanted to know about how much for 1,000 foot square.
I don't have the figures off the top of my head. If you want, why don't you reach out? You can reach out and I'll give you that information, because I've got some figures that I can pull up. Just reach out to Porterhouse and Teal at gmail.com, and I'll have a little back and forth with you if you're interested. But I don't want to cite something that I'm not able to give you some fairly, decent information just off the top of my head at this point. But yeah, thanks for the inquiry.
And to Bill, yes, I remember when I was young, and you would tip in change, or my mom, I would say, would tip in change, and you would give that to your waitress, and they would just, put that money in their pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it was a gift. It wasn't meant to be taxed.
Yeah, you know what? And I don't fucking like when you tip somebody and it goes into a tip jar. No, I'm tipping this person, man. This is the person that gave me good service.
Right.
I don't like that it goes into some, community thing
and then
everybody,
it's divided amongst them.
Yeah, everybody splits it up at the end of the night. That's not what it's all about, dude. I'm tipping you because you actually gave me good service, And
Spags.
Hey, what's up, Spags? How are you doing, brother? When somebody gives me really good service, I feel so obligated to tip them very, very well. I mean, if it's just standard, whatever, they're going through the motions and they got you your food and it's not all fucked up or whatever, I'll tip them. We tip them that standard 15 or whatever % or whatever. I don't know. What are we tipping? 20?
20.
Yeah, 20. So, I mean, that's okay, you did a good job. You did, whatever. But if they like go over and above and you're just like, man, that's a good waiter or waitress or whatever, man, it's like, you gotta kick down for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But anyhow, this is the first time I'd ever heard Trump literally crack himself up. And it was funny to me. It kind of tickled me because it reminds me of my dad. My dad would get ready to go into these tirades. He'd start telling some kind of a thing. And as he's setting the joke up or whatever, he'd just start like busting up and he couldn't stop laughing. And it would just,
that was really cute.
Yeah. He'd tickle himself. But anyhow, here's what Trump had to say the other day, fulfilling one of his campaign promises in Las Vegas.
I was told today by one of the big leaders of the world would call for a telephone call with the President of the United States a year ago. And it's would like to speak with, who is this? It's the head of Germany, the head of, name it, the head of France, the name of any country, it didn't matter. He would never pick up the call. They'd say, he'll call you back in 2 months. 2 months. Yeah, it's his schedule. He's extremely busy sleeping. No. Macron of France, he'll call you back in 2 months. So 2 months comes along and there's no call. They say, he didn't call. The stories are, these stories are not very exaggerated. I want to tell you, they're a little bit for laughter, but it's only for laughter. The fake news will say, oh, he exaggerated. It was only 1 month, But he'll say he'd call you back, and then he'd never call, and then they could never get him on the phone. And the problem I have is that when I speak to and I speak to them immediately, they'll say, could we speak to the president? Would that be possible? We could do it anytime over the next month. They're so used to this, right? I say, no, I'll pick it up right now. Is he on the phone? Yeah, hello, how you doing? That's what, get it over with, right? Get it over with. The only problem, they were so starved for love from the United States, I cannot get them off the phone. I can't get people, if you can't, I say, I have to go now, King, or I have to go now, President. But you can't get them off the phone. They're starved for love. For years they haven't spoken. They didn't even know we had a president, if you want to know.
Yeah. So, he's somebody who's been so accessible and it's nice. It is, man. Because again, it gives you that clarity. You know where he's coming from. He's not leaving you in the dark. And whether you like his policies or you don't like his policies, you know where he stands, you know what his positions are. And he was like that in his first term. And, he's obviously going to be a little bit more forceful, I think, in Trump 2.0. That's what I'm seeing in this first couple of days, man. It's been crazy.
I think he's got definitely has an idea of what being president's about.
Yeah, well, I think he feels like he probably needs to get everything done in the first 2 years, because who knows what happens when they lose, if they lose at the midterms or whatever. But again, it's just nice to have some clarity. People are going to be able to start investing and, making plans for at least the next 4 years. Energy is a big issue. And it's something that I never really understood why he wasn't more forceful in pointing out the fact that was one of the first things that Biden did. Not only did Biden, open up the border and terminate a lot of Trump's border policies, but he canceled that Keystone XL pipeline executive order day one. And energy is everything. It just is, man. When the trucks have to spend a bunch more, guess who's paying for that? It's not really the truckers as much as it is the people who are being charged for the truckers' work. And eventually that just flows downstream to the consumer. And so, that's the hidden inflation that you really are seeing and people have seen over the past couple of, years.
So Bill says in Hawaii, there's a 10% gratuity at McDonald's.
Really?
Mandatory, I think.
Yeah.
Or required.
Yeah, I don't know about all that, man. That's they can have that. I don't go to McDonald's, so that's I guess nice, huh?
The only thing that I know that's different from Hawaii's McDonald's than ours is they actually serve Hawaiian punch.
Hawaiian punch. Nice. Nice. That's funny. Let me ask you, Rebecca, what is something that you hope will come out of the Trump second term? You know, a lot of people have hopes and aspirations for what they want to see moving forward. And I know that I have given this a little bit of thought. And what have you given it any thought as well?
I'm hoping that people realize that we need to clean up and take care of our country first before we can help out others.
Mm-hmm.
That, you know, we need to have our affairs in order.
Mm-hmm.
And right now they're not. And Trump is really trying to work that angle.
Right. Yeah, I think, I hope that as well. You know, I think for myself, though, are you helping?
She is helping.
She's not helping. Are you helping? Okay. Good girl. What I would hope for his second term personally is something that I actually heard him say just the other day. And it's something that he hopes for. And so I hope that he's successful in that. And he was asked, I believe it was when he was signing executive orders or whatever on day one. He had a bunch of reporters in Oval Office and they're asking him questions and whatnot, and he's doing his thing. And somebody, I think, blurted out, "Hey, what did you and Biden talk about in the limousine coming over here to the inauguration?" And he just very calmly said, "Unification of our country," and just left it at that. And I thought, man, what an awesome thing to say, because I think that's what most people would really like to see. I don't know too many people who want to fight with the other side. They want, we want people to be able to, even if you disagree politically, I think we want to feel like we're on the same team. We want to believe that we're all still Americans and that we can have our disagreements and we can talk about things, but it has gotten to be so volatile that people don't even really talk about politics. And it's caused family members to part ways and it's caused friendships to erode. And I think that, if we could just get back to a certain level of civility from the standpoint of, yeah, I don't agree with what you have to say or your views on politics, but it doesn't make us enemies. We have to all be on the same team, and unification of our country would be a fantastic thing, I believe.
Mm-hmm. It would be. I find that pretty funny that it's only punch, not Hawaiian punch.
Yeah, one of the things I believe would actually make unification a possibility is, what Trump is trying to do, which is to win. And when you're winning, when you are prosperous, when you are successful, that's a lot easier to be, happy about things and to have that desire to be on a team, right? Everybody wants to be on the winning team. And so unification can only really happen if we, we pull together and we start winning, but we have to be able to follow the leader. And clearly now we have a leader. And, if you take a look at just the other day, Trump got on Air Force One and he flew out to North Carolina to fulfill a campaign promise, to talk to the people that have been left behind by the previous administration and to see what can be done from the standpoint of the federal government and cleaning up the mess that FEMA, under the direction of the previous administration, has left these people kind of in behind. But yet the same day he got on the plane and he flew across the country to California and met with constituents and political leaders over on that side of the country that are in opposition to Donald Trump and his policies. Many of those people that are affected in the Palisades fire more than likely didn't vote for Donald Trump, but yet he was there to try to do what he can do to cut through the red tape and the bureaucracy at the federal level so that they can put their lives back together. That right there is leadership. That right there is somebody who wants to unify.
And hopefully eye-opening for a lot of people too. That's what your president should do.
That's the point to it. if you're demonstrating, if you're leading by example and you're actually getting results for people, they're going to eventually see that. And that's what my hope is moving forward, that there will be more and more people that the blinders will come off, because we've seen years of lies in the media and, an attempt to propagandize and demonize both political parties from either side. And I think that, results, winning is going to be the thing that like causes people to go, oh, hey, wait a minute, this isn't so fucking bad. Gas prices are good. Look at my paycheck. Oh, this is cool. Oh, wow. Hey, look, crime is going down. Because they're not just letting people pour across the border. All of those things are things that are resonating with the American people. And that's the only reason Donald Trump won. With all of the things he had going against him, think about it, right?
Yes. And his team.
Yeah.
That was making sure that they didn't really take over cheating without training wheels.
I agree, Spags. Normal family holiday dinners again,
Yes.
No COVID masks, right?
But without training wheels. I agree with you that we can have our differences, but still respect each other and still get along.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that was, always been the beauty of this country. We've been able to engage in, differences and differences of debate and, allow our minds to be changed through that debate. But when one side just wants to silence the other side, people at one point start getting really frustrated with that. And I think that's where so many people in this country have been. And it feels to me like a renaissance when you see all of these corporations that had been censoring people kind of coming around to the idea that, maybe we need to fucking tamp that down a little bit and let people actually have conversations, and I really think that only kind of happened because of the Musk effect over at X. If that shit was still a liberal, censorship machine, I don't know if Zuckerberg and the rest of them would have kind of come along, but you need somebody to step out and to make that change,
Some of Elon's expressions of kind of hopping up and down and clapping his hands. He looks like a little boy in a candy store.
Yeah, he's an interesting dude, man. I'm not going to say he's not. He's definitely somebody who's very, very interesting, smart as can be, and I think his heart's in the right place in most instances. And I'm glad he's on our side. I'm glad he's not working for the opposition. Mm-hmm. In other words, not having some leftist viewpoints, but more aligned with, hey, I want prosperity for future generations. And I think a lot of that is born from the fact that he has 12 kids, right? That's a
lot of kids.
If you're somebody who has no kids, what do you give a fuck? You don't care about the future. You care about the now. But I think when you have other people in the world to think about, it changes your viewpoint in some regard over time, I think,
Mm-hmm. Should check out Non-Existent John's message.
I didn't see what he said. It says there's no such thing. We eliminate politics, maybe, but people in general are not intelligent. Sad but true. Unification means eliminating the laziness and understanding reality for what it is. Yeah, I guess people are lazy. They're fucking very lazy. Generally speaking, people want the easy route. They don't want to do hard things. They want comfort. They want security. So in that, I agree with you.
Mm-hmm. But there's your fair share that like their handouts.
Yeah, sure. But I do think that, unification maybe is a lofty goal, but I think it's one worth striving toward. I don't believe we just look the other way and say, oh, well, it's, it'll never be, so let's not try. I think that's a fucking cowardly way to look at it, personally. But, when you're in a position of leadership, you have to have goals and you have to work toward those goals. And clearly that's what, Trump and people like Trump, what drives them to do what they do. They get up every day because they've got goals and aspirations. It's been said many times that dude could just go off on the golf course and just disappear. But no, he's fucking working every day. And there's a reason why, because he's driven.
Well, he himself said, I don't need to do this.
No, I know.
I'm doing this because I'm here for the people.
Yeah.
And what should be right.
Yeah. And for him to have a goal of unification, if that's something that's lofty and unattainable by the view of others, then that's on them, you know. But I think it's what I see with what we're seeing now with Trump is it's a difference between somebody who's a boss and what we had in the past, who was a bureaucrat. And, you know, that's not just a rhetorical statement that I just made, but it is something that I actually learned throughout my career, because some people are put into positions of being leaders, put in that position of leadership, but they're really not cut out to actually be leaders. And I think we see that a lot in the government, not as much in private industry, because generally speaking, in private industry, you have to have results, right? You have to have a bottom line and you have to show production. And so it's very merit-based, and you don't just get the job because you've been there longer than somebody. But, you know, that's how Joe Biden got to be where he's at. Mm-hmm. He's never built anything in his fucking life. He's been a bureaucrat his entire adult life, since the time he was like 28. He's been in the Senate, and then he was vice president, and then he was president. And so what does he know about being a boss? He doesn't know anything about being a boss. And it was clearly evident. Couple that with his cognitive decline, and, you know, you've got a real problem there at the top. And so right now we're seeing a boss, right? And I know there's good bosses out there and there's bad bosses. I know I've had my share of both. Have you ever had any bad bosses, Rebecca? I imagine you have. And if you did, what, if anything, did you specifically learn from having a bad boss? Maybe.
This particular boss kind of set me up, which was that they brought on another therapist, asked me to train that therapist, and for a couple weeks, which, you know, everything was calm, seemed like everything was natural. But when I came back after those 2 weeks, you know, a weekend went by, came back to find that my desk had a new lock on it. Everything of mine was removed, stuck in this ramshackle desk in another, and then I was transferred somewhere else. Not even physically being talked to or anything else, just stripped of everything. So, I couldn't let that go because.
Well, did you learn anything from that? What did you learn from this boss that, you know, that you can take away from it?
As far as learning, other than just disliking this person, I didn't take recourse because, as far as lashing out, that to me, that's you know,
right,
beyond me.
Yeah,
I just actually moved into another position that I was happy in. Who was leading that was at one point his secretary.
Right. You know, one of the things that's a real issue with supervisors, and I'll tell you this because this is something I had to do as a supervisor. And, you know, if you're in it at all, the type of person that's fearful of confrontation directly with another person, by sitting them down and having a conversation with them directly and letting them know what the expectations is. And when they don't meet those expectations, you follow through with that with some form of disciplinary action. If you're not willing to do that, you're not willing to be a fucking boss. And so from the person that you had in the position that didn't say, hey, look, this is what we're doing, we'd like you to do this. You know, I don't know if that was some way of them just not being a very good supervisor by saying, hey, look, this is the plan. And, you know, we would like you to do this, rather than just underhandedly doing that and then moving you out. You know, maybe they have a problem with confrontation, but that is one of the biggest reasons that people are poor bosses, because they don't follow through. And you know what that does is it sends a message to everybody else that is busting their ass, doing a good job, it sends them the message that, well, I don't have to fucking toe the line either. Look at that person. They're not pulling their weight. So why do I have to? They're getting a free pass. They're making the same amount of money as me or whatever. And by them, would you let her out, please?
Yeah. For me, it was just like, you know what? I'm not going to allow you to harm me or drag me down in any fashion.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I just went, you know what? I'm just going to transfer somewhere else. And I did. And I was perfectly happy where I was at. For that particular boss, it was more a spiteful, because our son came from that facility, and he was trying to do everything he could for me not to succeed.
Okay. Well, again, my point to this is that there's good bosses and there's bad bosses.
But again, that should have been said to my face, and not just, you come and here, you can't unlock your desk or anything because you no longer own it.
Right. Yeah. One of the things that makes a person, an effective supervisor, manager, boss, what have you, is being able to look at the resources that you have, the people, the personnel, and realize that everybody that's working is different. Good grief. She needs to go. She might have to use a bathroom. So, not everybody is the same. It's like putting together a puzzle. Not all the pieces are the same, but yet I think some people think that. They hire a person into a position and they realize that, oh, this person's not doing the same as that. Well, if you're really good at what you do, you realize what that person's talents are and you figure out how to maximize them, and you realize that every individual is different. Just like when you have children. When you have children, even though they're raised under the same household, under the same parental guidance, they're all very different. And another thing, you don't get like a manual when you're becoming a parent. Yes, you can read books, you can go to trainings, you can look shit up, but you're never really learning how to be a parent until you're actually dealing with raising your own family and your own children. And they're all very distinctly different. And the same is true with employees of a corporation or a company or an organization. And so it's up to you as the supervisor to try to maximize those people based on their talents. A perfect example is this. When I was running hand crews, you've got a bunch of criminals that you're trying to motivate to do big things. And some of them want to be there, and some of them are kind of just like, half-assing it or whatever. And so you have to basically take members of the criminal element and build them into something. And so when you're building out your hook line, essentially, right? You've got 17 people to cut your fire line, different positions in there. And some people are really good at breaking shit. Some people are really good at moving heavy things. And so you're going to kind of want those people up front. And then there's other people that might be a little bit more detail oriented, people that are good at tweaking on certain things. And so you would want to put them maybe toward the back to give you a better finished product. And so that's just a very simple example of, finding the right fit for what is necessary in order to be a good boss. And I think Trump has the innate ability to do that. It's definitely something that if you're managing a multi-million-dollar corporation, you don't get to be a multi-million-dollar corporation if you're somebody who's afraid to deal with poor performers. And so there's going to be a lot of people in the federal government that are going to lose their job, which I think is quite warranted. And it sucks for them because they've been riding a free ride in a gravy train and probably been substandard and been in positions where they, maybe aren't needed, but, we'll just move you over here. And I think they're going to cut the fat to that. And they're going to bring in people that might have a different, eye on accountability. And I'm excited for the prospect of that by putting people in positions based on their qualifications rather than that time and grade or a feeling of obligation because the person's been there so long. Essentially, they just become kind of like the next logical choice. but all they're doing is perpetuating, in essence, a broken system. And that's why we wind up with people like Joe Biden or Bob Dole running for president, or the next, name your rhino, name your Democrat that's been there forever. And now you're up, guy. You've been there. You've seen it all. You haven't built shit in your whole career, but you're next. And so when Trump picked this guy for defense secretary, I think I'm actually a little bit excited about it.
It's true and has been acknowledged that I don't have a similar biography to defense secretaries of the last 30 years. But as President Trump also told me, we've repeatedly placed people atop the Pentagon with supposedly the right credentials, whether they are retired generals, academics, or defense contractor executives. And where has it gotten us? He believes, and I humbly agree, that it's time to give someone with dust on his boots the helm. A change agent, someone with no vested interest in certain companies or specific programs or approved narratives. My only special interest is the warfighter. Deterring wars, and if called upon, winning wars by ensuring our warriors never enter a fair fight. We let them win, and we bring them home. Like many of my generation, I've been there. I've led troops in combat. I've been on patrol for days. I've pulled the trigger down range, heard bullets whiz by, flex-cuffed insurgents, called in close air support, led medevacs, dodged IEDs, pulled out dead bodies, and knelt before a battlefield cross. This is not academic for me. This is my life. I led then, and I will lead now.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a good pick. Time will tell, but I would much rather see somebody who's actually responsive to people and close to the people on the ground, and is going to have their back as far as not asking them to enter into bullshit conflicts. Because I think there's just far too much of that we're engaged in. I get it. We got to go and we got to try out our new fucking equipment, right? We got to keep our folks trained up by going out and shooting stuff down. But, at some point it kind of becomes unnecessary when we're just killing a bunch of people. And I didn't realize that Trump was such an anti-war guy when he first ran, but he's clearly that. He's somebody who's not really all about, hey, let's go be interventionists. And so when he lets people go like Bolton, like he did the other day, what do you think Bolton's going to say? What do you think he's going to do? He's going to talk shit about Trump, because Trump has now seen what that dude's all about. So good on him for picking Pete Hegseth, in my opinion. Good evening, Skanes girl. How are you doing this evening? Good to see you. But yeah. So I wanted to get back to immigration, because I titled this, who's the real Deporter-in-Chief? Is it really Barack Obama? Barack Obama was given that moniker from immigrants' rights groups who didn't really like what he was doing by deporting illegals under, when he was president. And if you've missed the opener, it was a pretty decent summation of what Barack Obama's policies are regarding immigration, in his own words, when he was a young senator, I believe, running for the office. And I mean, it sounds conservative as you can imagine. And yet, when you think about it, that was only, maybe 14 years ago, right? It has not been that long. It's not been that much of a departure from as far as time is concerned, but as far as how the party has strayed away from that, it's pretty evident. But let's see, what am I missing here? Yeah, it's the whole thing with immigration, it's been used as a wedge issue. largely created by the Democrat Party, something that they can run on, like, hey, the other side wants to deport you because you're an illegal, right? You're an immigrant. And they don't even refer to them as illegals. They just say, immigrants. And that's the messaging from...
Or an undocumented worker.
Yeah, that's the message from the Democrat Party. And, it's kind of unfortunate because that hasn't really been the case historically. But Donald Trump has said from day one of his campaign, the first term, because I heard him say it, that he's in favor of legal immigrants and that he welcomes legal immigration into this country. And he, again, just the other day when he was signing, executive orders, he reaffirmed his position. And, this is what he had to say.
General.
This is an executive order. Sorry, sir.
I'm fine with legal immigration. I like it. We need people, and I'm absolutely fine with it. We want to have it. We need it because we're going to have a lot of companies coming in to avoid tariffs. If you don't want tariffs, all you have to do is build your plant in the U.S. So we're going to have a lot of workers coming in, but we have to have legal immigration.
Do you have a date in mind?
Yeah. So again, he reaffirms his position on that. And I don't know how that could be misconstrued as anything other than very, very clear on what Donald Trump's policy on immigration is. And that's aligned with most every president of recent past, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'd like to know what Spags Girl is using the...
Spags Girl? Who's
Spags? Sorry about that. I blended a few of you guys just together. I got my second workout. My dog decided to run out in the field and I had to chase her. So I'm a little out of breath. Skanes Girl. I'd like to know what you're using the rendered fat down for. Rendered down fat. I'm sorry. I'm all backwards.
Okay. Yeah. Well, chime in when you got you wanted to know what she's using the fat for? Is that what you said? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. What do you think about this immigration talk? Well, you just kind of came back in, but I think regardless of both, which side of the aisle you're on, we've always had kind of more or less a fairly robust immigration policy with our past presidents.
Right.
And I think history has been forgotten on that because of how far they've strayed, right?
I'm okay with them coming in legally and going through the whole process. I'm not okay with them being here legally. And I guess I have mixed feelings on the whole, I don't know if you got to the birthright thing, but I have mixed feelings on that. Yeah,
I had just mentioned it earlier. I wasn't even really going to mention it much more than that, but I don't know, the whole immigration thing. I think people forget what our past presidents, what they said on them, and I know I kind of hadn't realized how hawkish some of our past presidents were. And so really, who is the Deporter-in-Chief when you have Bill Clinton saying things like this? Maybe you remember this. Maybe you've forgotten.
Americans, not only in the states most heavily affected, but in every place in this country, are rightly disturbed by the large numbers of illegal aliens entering our country. The jobs they hold might otherwise be held by citizens or legal immigrants. The public service they use impose burdens on our taxpayers. That's why our administration has moved aggressively to secure our borders more, by hiring a record number of new border guards, by deporting twice as many criminal aliens as ever before, by cracking down on illegal hiring, by barring welfare benefits to illegal aliens. In the budget I will present to you, we will try to do more to speed the deportation of illegal aliens who are arrested for crimes, to better identify illegal aliens in the workplace, as recommended by the commission headed by former Congresswoman Barbara Jordan. We are a nation of immigrants, but we are also a nation of laws. It is wrong and ultimately self-defeating for a nation of immigrants to permit the kind of abuse of our immigration laws we have seen in recent years, and we must do more to stop it.
Well, there you go. There's some bipartisan support in the House of Congress right there. Both sides of the aisle were standing up, cheering, beyond. Standing ovation for Bill Clinton there, talking about securing our borders and deporting illegal aliens. And I might add that it was okay at that point to call them illegal aliens because that's what they are actually still called when you look at how they're referred to. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But they want to kind of sanitize the language and start calling them undocumented or immigrants. They're no longer even illegal. They're just undocumented.
It helps get closer to blurring the lines.
It absolutely does. But it's just interesting because I think a lot of people may have forgotten that history that, boy, what a sensible thing that old Bill Clinton, who most people probably on the right look at like he was not the kind of guy that, but policies have morphed so dramatically, weird, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. I want to say thanks to Skane's girl for answering the question. I'm sure your chickens and your dogs will love, and it is excellent to cook with.
Mm-hmm. The fat you're talking about?
Yep.
Okay.
The pork fat.
Yeah. Lard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You might also have forgotten this.
If you're a criminal, you'll be deported. If you plan to enter the U.S. illegally, your chances of getting caught and sent back just went up. The actions I'm taking are not only lawful, they're the kinds of actions taken by every single Republican president and every single Democratic president for the past half-century. And to those members of Congress who question my authority to make our immigration system work better, or question the wisdom of me acting where Congress has failed, I have one answer. Pass a bill.
So many of you probably are well aware that I'm no fan of Barack Hussein Obama and most of his policies, but that's one that I can get behind right there. And again, it's pretty interesting to see where the parties have strayed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I had forgotten that. I had forgotten that he was referred to as the Deporter-in-Chief, but it came up the other day when I was looking and scrolling through TikTok, which I might add is now back thanks to something that Trump did on his first day in office.
And amazingly, quite quickly.
Yeah, it's back. I don't know. It's not for forever. He didn't change the law that's been passed, but it's more or less an extension into the future, which allows some time for things to be, may potentially resolved with a purchase of the app. And he's made a proposal, which I don't really personally agree with as far as the government purchasing and being 50% owner in it. I'm not really a big fan of the government owning anything regarding media and information. They already own shit, like NPR and stuff like that.
I don't know that I heard that.
That was his proposal. I don't support it. I don't think that it's probably going to happen, to be honest. But, who's to say? If the app goes away, it goes away. It's not like I'm going to lose sleep over it, but I do think having more information, at least information where it's not being completely censored, is better than not. But I'm not in favor of the government taking, a part in it.
I thought that he was personally looking to purchase.
No.
Or joint with someone.
I think that would be a conflict of interest in some way, right? But I don't know that. That's not what he had stated. So good evening, HRDs, and
Second whiskey. HRDs.
Oh. Yeah. So who is actually the Deporter-in-Chief? I guess that's the question I want to get to. And I pulled up a couple of articles here that I can work backwards so that we can look to see who, see here. Okay, right here. So here's a couple of different graphs of recent presidents. You got Biden, Trump, and Obama. And Obama he deported about 5 million illegals. That's about what he got rid of. And Trump, about 2 million. And Biden, about 4.5 million. So Trump, actually, of these presidents, was the least amount. However, you have to understand that most of those people self-deported themselves, or they decided, yeah, I'm not going to the United States because that's not going to work out very well. So
he also was working on putting up the wall.
Correct.
So how many of them actually were successful?
Correct. There was less actual people coming in, but that still doesn't take away from the fact that we've got a lot of people that are currently here illegally from previous administrations. We're talking millions of people. But nonetheless, to your point, people decided to self-deport. They decided not to show up, like, hey, I'm not going like in a caravan to get denied. So that he just didn't have that many illegal entries. He had less illegal entries, but he also had the least amount of deportations. Now, if you look at Biden's graph, you can see that other number at the end here, right here. What that is those are Title 42 expulsions, meaning Title 42 was put in place during the COVID era, basically denying entry into the United States for people seeking asylum. So if they were coming to the border, they had to be turned away. They couldn't be allowed to enter claiming asylum because of the COVID era policies. And so you can see that Trump had a very little small spot of that, 206,000 people. And then Biden had like 2.7 million people, right?
So it's kind of a false reading, because
it is.
If there wasn't.
Well, here's the caveat to this. When the COVID era went away in like 2023, early, I think 2023, maybe late 2022, Title 42 was done away with. And that's when the majority of the illegal aliens came pouring across the border in those caravans we were watching by the millions. And so Biden actually wanted to allow people in, but he was blocked in Congress because of Title 42. But nonetheless, that's the only reason he's got 4.4 million people that he's deported. So let's take a look at another graph, if you will. Excuse me. Go back to here. Let me pull this up real quick. And then we'll look at this. And this is an article from the Migration Policy Institute. And there's a pretty interesting graph and table down below showing all the way over here at the right is showing total deportations. There's a lot of other numbers in here that are, factored into however it comes up with the total number of deportations. But again, as I mentioned earlier, totals for Obama administration, 5.2 million people he deported. So was he really the deporter-in-chief? More than Biden, more than Trump?
I'd have to say no.
Well, you would be right, because if you scroll up, George W. Bush deported twice that number, 10.3 million illegal aliens. And if you thought he was the winner, you'd be wrong yet again. He is not actually the deporter-in-chief. I would say of the recent past presidents, Bill Clinton would fit that bill because he deported 12.2 million illegal aliens.
Well,
so, it's just an interesting little factoid that I think a lot of people probably have forgotten from our recent past. But I mean, every president has, as Obama said, every previous president has deported a lot of illegals, including Ronald Reagan and others, right? So let's see here. London Pickering, how are you doing this evening? Let's see here. Michael McKnight says that may hold true for some, but for some that have no idea of their job security, this may not work. Or if they are now living in fear of racial discrimination and injustice, which I hear younger folk. I'm not exactly sure what you mean by all that. I think that there might be people that are living in fear. And, if you're in this country illegally, you probably should be, maybe sleeping a little less soundly at night, given the fact that, Donald Trump has made it quite clear that that's going to be a big part of what he's going to be doing. And here's what I also understand is that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be swept up in this that may not be illegals. And I think that'll all get sorted out. They won't get put on a plane and launched somewhere. That'll get sorted out. But I can assure you of this, that there will be plenty of people showing up, in front of news cameras with tears rolling down their face, talking about how their family was ripped apart. Because that's all part of it, man. It's all part of selling the idea that, oh, look how horrible this is. Well, guess what, man? If you're here fucking illegally, we've got laws in this country. And regardless of what you feel about it, like how it makes you feel, if it doesn't make you feel warm and fuzzy, that's what a nation is. There's law and order. And so we need to, as citizens, decide what kind of a place do we want to live in? Do we want to live in a place where we enforce some laws and then the other laws we look the other way and say, well, that's not cool. Now, I understand some laws are unjust, right? Mm-hmm. But I think this is a law that most people who vote in this country aren't looking at and saying, oh, this is completely unjust and I'm just going to flout the fucking law. No, this is being done by politicians to flood this country so that they have a voting constituency. That's what it's all about. So I don't know. We need to look at that as citizens and have that kind of a conversation and figure out, how it makes us feel. Is it how it makes us feel, or is it like actually something we want to like get behind and support? Or as a citizenry, are we going to say, oh no, this is not cool, we're going to vote a different way? I think, people have made the statement on how we want to go, which is law and order, right?
Yeah, I personally am against having people just pour into the country who are not vetted. You don't know anything about them, and it's just not safe. It's not safe for families. It's not safe for children.
Well, it was a real big deal when we were all told that, Al Qaeda was hiding around the corner in a sleeper cell. It was a really big deal then. And it was a really big deal under COVID for a minute, right? Mm-hmm. When we all had to be locked down in our houses with masks on and told not to go to Thanksgiving. It was a big deal then. And we've got every bit more like people around the world that probably don't have our best interest in mind. And believe me, Donald Trump's not making any friends by the way he's governing, right? It's not warm and fuzzy. It's like, hey, guess what? This is what the fuck's going on. And there's people that are going to be pissed about that. So,
but he's not saying you can't come here. He's just saying you have to come here correct. So you're going home and coming through the right way.
Yeah, I played that clip earlier. Yeah. And people can choose to hear or not hear what they want, but he's been very clear, and there should be no ambiguity as to what his position is. And again, he's a guy that's following through on promises made. So he's delivering. Let's see here. Let's see. Atrudy says that I think we could get many to self-deport by offering them cash.
I kind of am with Skane's girl.
Let's see here. I'll get to it. Bill Warner, it's really strange for me to even think about believing any pre-recorded version of any kind of news on video as being uncensored and controlled for public consumption. Yeah, I think that's where a lot of people are these days. I'm very skeptical when I see things. I'm kind of like, is that real? Or like, let me see if I can back that source up, before I just run with it.
A real eye-opener is when you turn the channel and every channel saying the exact same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, word for word, the exact same thing.
Yeah, I think we've all seen that clip where, they're all in lockstep with the narrative. Skates Girl says, when you apply to immigrate to the U.S., you have to prove why you can't live in their country, not why they should be in the U.S. Yeah. It's pretty interesting, but I guess my somewhat limited understanding of it, but I understand that back in the day when people came here as immigrants, they had to prove certain things. They had to prove, one, that they weren't going to be a burden on society. And so they had to be sponsored. They had to have a sponsor family of somebody like, hey, you're not going to be living on the government's thing. These are the people you'll go with. If, you had to be sponsored by somebody who was able to do that. That's my understanding. I could be completely wrong, but I did a little reading into it, and that's what I gathered from it. And then you also had to kind of go through a civics thing, like, hey, this is what it means to be American. There was a whole list of things that you had to actually comply with. Plus, not only that, you had to be quarantined at Ellis Island, was one of the places where they came into in New York, to make sure you weren't bringing fucking scurvy and a bunch of typhoid and diseases and tuberculosis and smallpox and all of that sort of stuff. I mean, back then we were actually screening people, but now you just give them an app, a CBP1 app, and say, oh, here's your app, and here's your fucking credit card, and there's a hotel. Meanwhile, you've got people in North Carolina still living in tents, trying to find out where they're going to get their water from. And so, things are upside down. And I really feel like it's great that Trump is moving with such speed and clarity that is going to, again, renew that optimism for people so that they can kind of know, hey, man, things are going to be getting better here.
All right.
Right?
So read London's comment.
Okay.
Right.
Wait a minute. I want to see this right here. What's non-existent, John says. Yeah, it says, yes, vetting and determining the reasons for which one wants to be a part of this great country has to be absolutely the norm. Too many leeches made it in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 100%, man. You're exactly right. I mean, and that's what Trump has said. If you've got skills and you've got something to contribute to this society, we want you. Come. You're a value. That's the whole point. We want valuable people, not just fucking leeches that want something for nothing and are going to stand out there with a Black Lives Matter sign or whatever other sign, Gays for Gaza sign, maybe. Who knows what they're going to be standing out there protesting instead of getting a fucking job and contributing. Now, having said that, there's a tremendous amount of these people that I'm sure are willing to work and are probably are working, but that doesn't allow you to just come here just because, oh, I want to come and pick grapes or pick lettuce or whatever. We've already got fucking people doing that here.
Yes, we do.
By the millions, man. And we have for a long time, dudes working in slaughterhouses, people making beds and shit, mowing Nancy Pelosi's lawn. Who do you think's doing that? Right?
I'm still stuck on her ice cream, her showing her freezer when everybody's locked in with COVID, and she's showing her freezer with all the different varieties of ice cream.
Yeah, well, she's better than you.
I don't think she is.
Well, she does.
Well, she's wrong.
Yeah, London says, I'm all for legal immigration. I'll never understand being here illegally and then get free health care, IDs, cash, cell phones, home loans, etc. Yeah, it's all part of the plan for the no voter ID, right? That's how they're going to win those swing states. Mm-hmm. So, because people, I mean,
I don't see. That's what I'm talking about when I say we need to clean up our country first.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't get that we're going to give all these handouts to all these illegals, but we still have all of these other people that have either been hit with some kind of storm and lost their homes or whatnot and aren't getting the aid that they need.
I understand. I would like to know what the vote would actually be in California if we had voter ID here. I wonder if Trump would have won. I wonder if Gavin Newsom would have actually been recalled if there was voter ID and they weren't sending out ballots by the mail. I got a ballot. I didn't ask for it. Plus I went down and voted, and they tried to whatever, but you know what I'm saying? There's drop boxes. There's abilities and ways for them to manipulate the vote. They need to clean up the voter rolls, one vote, one person, and you're going to be a citizen of this country. And I think if we were to do that, it would be a much different result.
So I'm going to say what I said before was that you need to show your ID, and I don't have a problem with a thumbprint.
You'd be a great deporter-in-chief. You're going to be
Let's do it.
Border czar. Yeah. Yeah, I get you guys. That's something. Okay, Skane's Girl says, every time I go to the laundromat to dry clothes, there is some crazy new sign posted because of the Colombians who have ended up here. Huh. Interesting. You get the Colombians there, huh? Which I think I'm going to get to that here real shortly, talking about
I
Colombia.
thought she was going to talk about somebody having a conversation with the dryer.
I saw some dude having a conversation as I'm pulling out of Walmart yesterday. He starts screaming, and then he starts hitting himself in the head. And so I thought, oh man, this dude's going through it. And then of course he's doing that, and everybody in the parking lot's like looking over like, what the hell? And then he'd walk for a little bit longer, and then he'd just start screaming, just like, pissed off at something. And then he was
upset,
hitting himself. And it was like, man, that's part of the problem right there. We've got a real problem with homeless people and mental illness, and it's a thorny issue. Let's see here.
It's a thorny issue. It's a thorny issue on how to resolve it.
Is there any of these I need to see here? Bill Warner says, I worked with a group of guys that came from Acapulco who took the worst job in the shop. Also, the most important job for the finisher product that came through the proper channels. So, I will say this, that illegal aliens do take a lot of shitty work, and they work hard hours for very little pay. And most of the reason that they're doing that is because they're here illegally. You understand that, right? If they were here legally, they'd be they'd be as entitled as every other American. Oh, I'm not picking fucking lettuce. Forget that, man. I'm not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of need that underclass of people to take those shitty jobs, because nobody's taking those shitty jobs. And that's just the reality of it. They're going to keep their mouth shut and be like, I'm going to make this money, send it back to Mexico, and pick the lettuce and stay out there in the hot sun, and I understand a lot of people bitch about it, but that's where a lot of your stuff's coming from, is slave labor. Same with the clothes that you wear. A lot of people, if you're buying them at Walmart, coming from China. Where do you think that shit's coming from?
Everything from China.
Well, kids are making that. Kids are making that in very uncool conditions. So it's just the way that it is. There's always going to be an underclass of people who are working harder and for less pay. It's a reality of life, right? America does it. Every country around the world does it.
So Bill Warner said that they are making $7 a day, but they're actually making $9, or not a day, an hour.
So that
Sorry,
they earn $7 a day, but they earn
making
$9 an hour. Yeah, I bet you they are. I mean, that's pretty decent money. I mean, I'm sure they're making probably minimum wage, a lot of these people, but nonetheless. Yeah, so I think I'll get to this last clip of the week. And again, this goes to kind of wrap things up tonight. We've been talking a lot about immigration, been talking a lot about what Trump's gotten done. And he's a person, he's a man of action. He's showing that, he's demonstrating that in the first few number of days that he's been in office. And I'm thrilled with it. And it's also, he's laying down a template for those people who he might do business with in the future by showing, hey, you know what, you FAO, you FA, you're going to FO, right? You fuck around, you're going to find out. And here's a perfect example of that.
Of everything that happened today between the United States and Colombia. The U.S. sent 2 military planes full of illegal migrants from Colombia back to their home country, which was already agreed upon. But when the planes landed in Colombia, the government abruptly rejected the planes. President Trump, who was spending his Sunday on the golf course in Miami, heard of this and took a pause to send a message. He posted this on Truth Social, which basically said, if Colombia does not take these planes of illegal migrants, he's going to impose 25% tariffs, travel restrictions, and other sanctions. And within 20 minutes of that message being sent out, the Colombian president sent 2 presidential planes to go get his people. which Donald Trump responded by posting this AI-generated photo of himself with an FAFO sign in the background. I think this is what some people might call the art of the deal. As always, I want to hear what.
So, again, that's just how you get down, man. I mean, he knows how to get results. That's a person who knows how to make things happen and realize when you have leverage, you need to use it. A lot of these lesser countries that don't have the power and authority of the United States, they're gonna pay the price. Unfortunately, I don't know how that's all going to play out, but he's making some threats that I think are going to turn into fulfilled promises with regard to a lot of these tariffs that he's going to be putting on Canada and Mexico. And you know what? I mean, good for him, because that's the leverage that you have. He's got a lot of leverage, and they either can close down their border and work with the United States and take back all the people that they've sent over the border, or you're going to pay the price. The fuck's Canada going to do? They're not going to do a damn thing. They don't have the leverage. What's Colombia or Mexico going to do? It's just not going to happen. So he's very forceful, and I'm glad to see that. Because it's America first, and Trump 2.0 is going to be non-apologetic. So for as long as it lasts, Trump 2.0, I'm stoked to see it. I'm behind with the agenda, man. No apologies. America first, right?
Yeah, exactly. I am pleased with the fact that he's just jumped right in with both feet fighting, and he's not choosing. This is my party, so these are the only people that I'm going to. He is out there for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's beautiful.
Yeah. Michael Knight says, not in reference to immigrants, was in reference to other actions being taken. In the chat, shorten my chat. I hear younger folk expressing their concerns about those policies. Yeah. I think you mean, and I think you're referring to people being deported, right? And I think that there's a lot of that.
Yes.
About younger people, probably, that have this maybe different view of what it means to be an American and what it means to protect our borders and be in this country and contribute. And, maybe they just haven't been educated well enough. I don't know. I think that there's.
For some, but I think that there's actually quite a few that actually have.
Yeah. I think it, a lot has to do with their exposure, what they're getting on social media, and, the algorithm that's feeding them this person's bad, and this is what's popular, and you don't go that way or whatever. But I do see that somewhat changing because, Donald Trump had a lot of support from young men. A lot of young men came over to Donald Trump, and that says a lot, I think. It's not just the young people are going to the left. There was a lot of them that came out and said, yeah, this is not cool, man. This is some bullshit.
Yeah.
And so a lot of that has to do with the media and how they controlled and utilized the media to their advantage. Getting on all these podcasts and going to these different places where they were able to expose their messaging and let people make a decision for themselves. Right. They were fully able to be in front of people to make the choice. They were going on Theo Vaughn. They were going on Rogan. They were going on Jake Paul or whatever, all these young people. And a lot of that had to do with the influence of his son, Barron, by saying, hey, you know what? You need to do this. You need to go on this show.
Right.
And that helped a lot, I think, for Trump.
Right. And with these fires in California, it would be interesting to see how many of those folks that lost those homes changed their mind, their political mind, their thinking.
Yeah. Non-existent John says, my daughter still fails to get it. America first. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty interesting, when family members, believe something so completely counter to maybe what you believe, but it's just the way that it is, I guess.
It's kind of hard when they're young because they're so impressionable by their friends.
Yeah, we've got family members who, believe opposite of what I believe and she believes. It's just, I think that's part of, families,
Mm-hmm.
In general. But yeah, it's interesting.
It is. We still all get along, though.
Yeah. So anyhow, I think that's about all that I had for you guys this evening. And if you have anything else to add, Rebecca, then I don't know. Did you want to leave any messages of wisdom or encouragement from your side of the?
I would just say to go out and have a wonderful 2025. Make it the best you can.
Yeah.
Because things are looking bright.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're gonna punch out. I'm pretty stoked on this week. Yeah, root for me because I'm going to probably need it. It's going to be a tough day on Saturday, but I'm looking forward to it. So go out there, guys, and do big things, and we'll join you next week and hopefully have something to bring to you. But again, thank you.
Yes. Good evening.
Wait a minute here. What is this? Skainsgrove's got something to say here. It says, when you have passed through multiple countries to get here, you're not escaping danger. If you can get here from a completely different continent, you are seeking asylum. You are seeking the U.S. You are 100% right. I believe in that. China knew what they were doing when they sent people and allowed them to come here on a plane and flew into Mexico. And so it'll be very interesting to see for me personally. I heard some rumors that, Mexico has turned away flights from the U.S. I don't even know how that's possible. I don't think that's going to stand with Trump. They're going to take back a bunch of motherfuckers because they all came through Mexico. A few of them came through Canada, but they all flew into whatever, Mexico City or wherever they flew into from around the world, Somalia and every country in Eastern Africa. And they all came through Mexico, landed a plane. So for them to say, oh, we're not taking you back, we'll just have to see how that plays out. But yeah, they're not seeking asylum. They're seeking something else.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to work in their favor.
Nor do I. But anyhow, guys, thank you again for joining us. And go out there and have a great week. We plan to do the same.
Yes. Good evening.